Thank you, everyone, for tuning into our website and watching these town hall videos. I have with me Amy McGrath, who is running to be our party's nominee for United States Senate. Amy, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, it's great to be with you.
We were, looking for ways to get candidates out in front of voters. So I know voters appreciate this and you taking the time to answer some questions from them as they are preparing to make their decision in the primary. One of the things we've heard from voters is that they love getting to know candidates personally, and that's becoming harder during this interesting time. So the first two questions we have are healthy at home related, an opportunity for them to get to know you a little more as a person. And the first one we have are, right now, are there any television shows that you're binging, books that you're reading, anything you want to recommend to our voters?
Sure. Well, Clint, I have three small kids. So my television shows are mostly cartoons at this time. But I will say that since we've been home, we have sort of rediscovered the old cartoons. So if you go back to like Scooby-Doo, the early Scooby-Doos, where I bought like a bunch of those sets, and they're really quite good. They're not bad. And so we've been watching that in the Looney Tunes. So can't say that I've had much time for that other than with the kids.
Great. One thing we've also heard from folks, they talk about, things have slowed down quite a bit. And I know for candidates, that's not necessarily the truth, but things are a little more remote. And so people have had some time for introspection and thinking about different things. During this time of being healthy at home, is there anything that you've learned about yourself that you would like to share with voters?
Well, I mean, probably what people might not know about me that I've sort of rediscovered is I'm kind of a homebody. I enjoy being at home. I enjoy being with my family. And although sometimes it's kind of crazy with the three kids and, them going after each other pretty much all the time, it's still fun. And I enjoy being home and doing a lot of cleaning and making the house look good and that sort of thing. So.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to jump into the policy questions now.
Okay.
And what we did was we asked Democrats throughout the month of April to submit questions to us that they wanted to ask for all the candidates of all the various races. So we're doing this for everyone up and down the ballot. And we've narrowed it down to 7 questions for the Senate race. If you're ready, we'll jump right in.
Sure.
So the first one is, the first couple are COVID-19 related. I think it's on everyone's mind right now. And COVID-19 has changed and will continue to change several aspects of our everyday lives. And this has exposed in many ways the great income inequality here in our Commonwealth. So moving forward, what should our leaders be doing to address this issue of income inequality?
Well, thanks for the question. I think the first most important thing that we need to do, which is particular to this race, is to get Mitch McConnell out of office. Because for so many of the things that we need to move forward in Kentucky and in our country, they're being held back by Senator McConnell. Income inequality is just one of them. It's exacerbated right now because of everything that is going on all around us. I think we have to have leaders that focus on, number one, on healthcare, on the affordability of healthcare, making sure everybody has it and can have it. Basic things like getting prescription drug prices down. 6 bipartisan bills have passed the House, bipartisan. Any one of those 6 bills, I believe the current president would sign. Hopefully the next president will sign. But those bills will not get to the floor of the Senate because of Mitch McConnell. And it's not a rocket science as to why, right? Follow the money. He gets the most money from Big Pharma than any member of Congress. So to me, these are things that affect everybody's lives. And inequality is, exacerbated by higher prescription drug prices, inability to access health care, inability to afford it. We also have to focus on education. We also have to focus on college affordability, which is, really big driver of people not being able to get their head above water. We also have to make work pay. And I talk about this a lot when you talk about good quality jobs in Kentucky. What does that mean? It means we got to stop undermining unions and those entities that try to make sure that jobs pay good benefits. It's not unacceptable to have people that have to work 3 jobs to make ends meet here in Kentucky. It's not a matter of people not wanting to work. It's a matter, I hear over and over again, of the jobs they don't pay enough to have a living wage. So we have to do things like raise the minimum wage, but we have to do more than that. And that means not undermining unions. It means that we have to have good quality jobs in Kentucky, which means we need to invest in education. It means we need to invest in infrastructure, and I'm talking about 21st century infrastructure, broadband, cell phone coverage, all of those things. These are things that Mitch McConnell has no interest in doing, all right? And it also means that we need to invest in public health, which is, of course, something that we're all dealing with right now. I think those are the best ways to tackle income inequality going forward.
Well, let's jump right into the healthcare. So a critical weakness that has also been exposed is our system of employer-based healthcare can oftentimes be difficult for some people. So what should be done to remedy this before the next crisis comes around?
Yeah, well, this is huge, right? I mean, we are now having this coronavirus crisis, which is killing people in magnitude of, like greater than the Vietnam War in terms of deaths at this point, in addition to an economic crisis, which is worse than the 2008 economic crisis. And I think it shows you the connectedness that we have between public health and healthcare and our economy. In other words, we're now, for many people, we've understood it before this, but I think even more now people are understanding that not only their own healthcare, but other people's healthcare is so important to all of us and literally to our economy. So I think going forward, number one, right now, we need to have immediately free testing for anybody that wants to. I know that's been passed, but is it actually happening? Number two, we need to have free, and I've called for this, the government should be paying for free care for anyone who is afflicted with COVID-19. This is the right thing to do. It's going to make sure that people get the health care that they need to protect all of us going forward. I think we need to lower the age of Medicare to 60 right now. I think that's the right thing to do to make sure that all of vulnerable populations can have health care if they want to. I think we need to open all the Affordable Care Act markets again to make sure that people can get affordable health care. Long term, and I've called on this for a long time now, we need to have a public option. That's the first step to making sure that healthcare is affordable. It is simply the idea that you can buy a government plan. You should not have to be dependent on your employer to buy health insurance in this country. And so for me, a public option is something that lots of people want. It's something that we can do. My 5-year-old is knocking on the door, so I apologize for that right now. I'm trying to ignore him. And also, Clint, I think we need to work on prescription drug prices. I mean, these are things, again, that most Kentuckians are for, and we can't get it done, even with the Republican president who said that he wants to do it because of Mitch McConnell. So I think those are the things that we can focus on going forward.
Thank you for that. This next question, I think this is our last COVID-19 related question. Small businesses across Kentucky are hurting right now. And many have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program. Others have yet to access these funds. We're particularly concerned with minority-owned small businesses. What should be done to make sure that people of color are not shut out of these types of programs?
Yeah, what's happened with the PPP program, initial rollout is really unfortunate. Here is a program that is going towards small businesses to keep them afloat. And this is what happens when you pass bills and you have guys like Mitch McConnell provide no oversight to how their bills are actually implemented. And so what you see big corporations and entities like Shake Shack and Ruth and Chris Steakhouse take millions of dollars LA Lakers and all of these corporations take millions of dollars. And by the time, within a few days, the money runs out so that small businesses can't do it. And it comes from this idea that we're just going to give the money to banks and then they're going to dole it out. We've got to have good governance in this country. If it's we the people who are going to be bailing out businesses, which I'm for that, those, let's lift each other up. We the people have to have oversight of that. So I think going to minority businesses are really important because a lot of times they fall through the cracks and they're not able to get the funding that they need. And so the number one, we need to have better oversight. I would certainly be somebody who considers, looking at how do we prioritize minority-owned businesses. It's the same way we prioritize, veteran-owned businesses. We can have those priorities, and I think that's important, but the most important thing is oversight. And that means that Congress has to do their job. Right now, we have Senator McConnell, who's bringing the Senate back to Washington, D.C., and we have trillions of dollars that have gone out to help Americans right now. And he doesn't want to do any oversight. A $500 billion slush fund for big corporations. And he wants to go back to Washington, D.C. and not do the oversight for that, but simply pass through unqualified judges. I mean, this is a failure of good governance right now. And to me, that's the most important thing. Let's have some oversight.
Good, thank you. The next question, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but you can take this to flesh it out a bit. Hundreds of bills have passed the House only to become paperweights on Senator McConnell's desks. Of these measures, what would you like to see the Senate move on day one in 2021?
Well, you're right to say there have been hundreds of bills, 400 or so, that are sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk. And he has not acted on any of them. In fact, it took a pandemic for him to actually legislate. I think right now what we should be focused on, what I would do day one, is I would do things like those 6 prescription drug bills that are bipartisan. President Trump would sign it. I think any Democratic president would sign it. I would certainly be for that. Why? Kentucky has the second highest per capita spending on prescription medication in the country. This is something that can affect Kentuckians' daily lives right now if we can pass it. And we can. It's already passed the House. Senator McConnell won't allow it to the floor of the Senate. What else? The Violence Against Women Act. Again, it's a no-brainer. It's passed the House. It provides really important funding to fund rape crisis centers and health care for victims. It's really important, and it hasn't been passed. It's not a priority for him, I think beyond that, look, I was a big proponent of H.R. 1. H.R. 1 was the first bill that was passed when the Democratic House took over in early 2019. And it provides election security. It provides, allows more people to vote in this country, make it easier for people to vote, and it tackles the dark money and transparency in dark money, which I think is just crushing our country. So that should have been done yesterday, and those are just 3 bills right off the top of my head that I would be behind right away.
Good, thank you. The next one, the Senate is broken, and besides removing Mitch McConnell, which we think would be a huge step forward, what other changes would you like to see in that institution?
Yeah. Number one, I think we need to have term limits. I know the reasons why people say that, we shouldn't have them, but I think it's very clear. No one should be in the Senate for 40 plus years. You're not representing the people anymore. You're not connected. And even more important, you become part of a dysfunctional system that's just not working. So to me, I think that's a structural change, and I think it should be across the board. I would work towards that. I know that's difficult, but I would work towards that. I would end Citizens United. And what does that mean? Well, the first step is we have to get transparency and dark money. Then we have to go after the unrestricted unlimited money that you're seeing in campaigns. Over 70% of campaigns last cycle were funded by 1% of Americans. There's something wrong with that. And it's just un-American, and it's not where our democracy needs to go. And frankly, this is the swamp and the system that Mitch McConnell built. All right, this is what he thrives on. And so you have to work within the system that we have to change it. And I am committed to changing it. I think those are really probably the two most important things that we need to do to change the structure of the Senate. And beyond that, I think we need to stop the revolving door of elected officials and their staffs in the lobbyist community. It's just, it's not helping. And we need to get back to the basics of what our democracy is all about.
Thank you. Switching gears now to more sort of community-oriented questions. How will you work if both our nominee and then our senator to engage young voters in the conversations about the issues facing Kentucky?
Well, currently right now in my campaign, I have a youth council, which is a group of young Kentuckians all around the state who are advising me and advising my staff, telling me, what I need to know, trying to explain to me what TikTok is, and stuff like that. But it's more than that, right? It's about the issues that they care about. It's about college debt. It's about good jobs. What I've heard most from my youth council lately is about broadband. As we're all at home, I've got young college students they were at Moorhead or they're Western, and now they went back home. And guess what? They can't do their work. High school students who are at home and they can't do their work. They can't keep up because we don't have the connectivity. Man, this is the future. So what I want to do is be somebody that listens. I want to be somebody that cares. I saw it in my last assignment at the U.S. Naval Academy. One of the reasons I ran and stood up to run for public office is because I saw in the younger generations this sort of disconnect, that they really didn't feel like their government works for them or works at all. And they just started to not care. And that crushed me. As an American, as somebody who's fought for the country, I believe that our youth is our future, and we have got to get them engaged. And so, I've reached out. I want to listen, but I also want to empower and show the youth of Kentucky and the youth of America, hey, we all got to step up together, because if we do and we vote, we can have a really strong voice and we can change the trajectory of our country for the better.
Great. That segues, I think, nicely into our last question, which is, if elected, what would you do as our senator to improve civic competency in Kentucky?
Well, number one, I think it's a really important issue. We have so many people that don't understand just the basics of our democracy and how it works, the basics of our Constitution. This is what I taught in my last assignment was teaching constitutional development. And national security at the Naval Academy. And even among those who are going into our military, a lot of people don't understand the basics. I think it's really important. And frankly, a lot of our problems today are surrounded by a lot of people not understanding the basics of civics. So what would I do? Number one, we have to invest in education. Civics classes have been cut over and over and over again, like a lot of humanities classes, because of budget cuts year after year after year. And in school superintendents and school regional boards have to decide what subjects they have to cut. And a lot of times civics gets cut. So how do we stop that? You invest in education to make sure that we don't have to make those cuts. Because I just think now more than ever, we're starting to figure out why this is so important. But number two, here's what I would do. I would be a leader that young people, and not only young people, but all Kentuckians can believe in, somebody they can trust. I think that is probably the biggest way we can get civic engagement again, is if people can look at their leaders and say, I may not agree with her on this and that, but she's honest. She's somebody of character. She's somebody who's going to look in for the best interests of this state and the best interests of the country first. So many people don't believe that about our leaders. I don't believe that about our leaders right now, you know? And this isn't a partisan thing to say. It's just a fact. And so I believe that if we can get leaders that people can believe in again, who tell the truth, believe in science, and just want to do the right thing, then we can do a lot to get people civically engaged again in our country.
Good, thank you. So I'm just going to turn it open to you now. Anything that you want to add that you think voters should know? Maybe let voters know the way they can engage with your campaign, and then.
Sure. Okay. Well, the best way to engage with my campaign is to be a part of it. You can go to my website, amymcgrath.com. You can volunteer, just send us an email. There's instructions on there. You can fill out a forms. There's all kinds of ways. If you have questions about the campaign or questions about issue areas, you can write us. I'll write you back. I try very hard to engage with as many people as I can and answer their questions. I think that's really important. But what people ought to know about me is, look, I'm a common sense Kentucky Democrat. I'm somebody that has served the country. I put my country and Kentucky above my political party. But I'm somebody that believes that everybody should get a shot. And I'm for the working person, right? I'm not bought off by special interests. I'm not bought off by corporations. I want to be a voice for the everyday Kentuckian and to do what's right for Kentucky. I'll listen to people. I'm not somebody that's going to be unapproachable. I believe in things like town halls. If elected, I'm going to have them. I'm going to have a way for people to get in touch with me. I mean, when was the last time Mitch McConnell had a town hall? Seriously? Think about that. Let's get back to our democracy again. And the last thing I will tell everybody, and I've sort of already said it, but right here in Kentucky, we can change not only the trajectory of Kentucky, but we can change the trajectory of our country. If we can get rid of Mitch McConnell, we get rid of Senator McConnell, because so many of the things that probably many people who are listening to this podcast or whatever you want to call it, I'm technically illiterate sometimes, what you care about is being held up by Senator McConnell. So the first step is getting rid of him. I built a team to do that within the system that we have. And so let's do it. Thanks.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know we appreciate it, and I know our voters will appreciate it as they get to watch the videos. I want to remind everyone out there who's watching, June 23rd is the primary. We'll be posting information on our website about how you can access your absentee ballot and vote by mail in a safe way, and we hope that encourages participation. But I'll let you get back to the rest of your day, and thank you so much, and have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, everybody.